Usually when we think about a massive ecological shift, we picture something highly cinematic.
No, definitely. Like, we expect these undeniable signs.
Yeah, exactly. We picture melting glaciers or rising sea levels or, I don't know, a lush forest just slowly turning into a desert.
Right, something so huge you could literally see it from a satellite.
Right. We look for these grand landscapes to show us that the world is changing. But sometimes the absolute front line of a changing ecosystem isn't a melting ice cap.
No, not at all.
Sometimes the most significant ecological shift is happening right now, just quietly, in the plastic saucer sitting underneath a potted geranium on a balcony in Munich or Berlin.
It's crazy to think about, but yeah.
I mean, you might not think a flower pot is ground zero for a tropical disease vector, but according to the latest health reports we're looking at today from the Robert Koch Institute and municipalities all across Germany, that is exactly what's happening.
It really is. It's right in our backyards.
So today we're doing a deep dive into the invasion of the Asian tiger mosquito. We've got this whole stack of regional health guidelines, biological profiles, and epidemiological data.
Lots to get through.
And our mission is to figure out what this tiny invader actually is, the real health risks it carries like dengue and Zika, and why the fight against tropical diseases in Europe now literally starts with, well, an empty flower pot.
It's a fascinating shift, really.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand how a tropical mosquito sets up shop in Central Europe, we have to look at how it travels. I mean, it didn't just fly here, did it?
No.
Yeah.
Not even close. It is a phenomenal hitchhiker, actually. And its journey is just this perfect illustration of modern globalization.
Okay, how so?
Well, the Asian tiger mosquito, which is scientifically known as Aedes albopictus, originates in the dense tropical forests of Southeast Asia.
All right.
And its global spread over the last few decades, it's heavily tied to two main human activities: international trade and travel. And the classic textbook example of this is the global trade in used tires.
Yeah, I saw that in the reports, and I mean, it makes so much sense when you think about the shape of a tire. It's basically a rubber cave.
That is exactly it. It's an ideal artificial microclimate because tires are often stored outside in these massive piles.
Right, sitting in the sun and the rain.
Exactly. So they collect rainwater, and their dark interior provides this incredibly protected, insulated environment. So a female tiger mosquito in Asia, she lays her eggs just above the waterline inside one of these tires.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then that tire is loaded onto a cargo ship sent across the world. When it arrives in a port in Europe and gets rained on, the water level inside the tire rises.
And it covers the eggs.
Yep, it submerges those dormant eggs and they hatch. They've also utilized the global trade of lucky bamboo plants. You know those?
Oh, the ones in the little glass vases?
Right. They're shipped in small amounts of standing water, which provides another perfect floating nursery.
Okay, so that explains how they crossed the oceans to get to the European continent. But getting to Germany specifically, that sounds more like a road trip.
It really is.
Because the municipal data tracks them literally catching rides in cars and transport trucks moving up from southern Europe.
Yeah, they get trapped in the cabins of transport trucks or, the trunks of holidaymakers' cars driving north from Italy or southern France.
Because they're already heavily established down there.
Exactly. And for a long time, these were just isolated introductions. The mosquitoes would arrive in Germany, maybe survive and breed for a few weeks in late summer, but then the harsh German winters would act as this natural reset button.
You just freeze them out.
Right, the freezing temperatures would wipe out the adults and the eggs. But as we know, that natural reset button is essentially broken now.
Because the winters themselves are changing.
Climate change has completely shifted the baseline. We are seeing consistently milder winters and significantly hotter, longer summers. So the biological threshold has been crossed.
Meaning they survive.
Yes. These mosquitoes are no longer just passing through as accidental tourists, they are overwintering. The eggs are surviving whatever frost we do get, and the populations are becoming permanently established.
And the numbers are huge. I mean, as of our latest data in 2025, they have permanent overwintering populations in 8 German states.
It's moving so fast.
8 states is a massive footprint. And looking at the maps in these reports, it's not just the warmer southern regions anymore.
No, it's really spreading.
Yeah, they track them spreading from the upper Rhine Valley in Baden-Württemberg and regions in Bavaria like Fürth, Günzburg, and Nuremberg, all the way north and east to Berlin and Dresden in Saxony.
They are officially locals at this point.
Right. But, okay, if I'm out in my garden, how do I even know if I'm looking at a tiger mosquito? I mean, I think most of us just assume all mosquitoes are the same annoying little biters.
Yeah, people do assume that. But the differences are actually quite stark once you know the behavioral and physical markers.
Okay, what are we looking for?
Well, our native German house mosquito, the Culex pipiens, it's generally a crepuscular and nocturnal hunter, meaning it's active at dawn, dusk, and during the night.
Right, that's the one that hums around your ear when you're trying to fall asleep.
Exactly, the lazy nighttime nuisance. But the Asian tiger mosquito, on the other hand, is strictly day active.
Yeah, the reports paint them as these aggressive daytime ninjas.
Ninja is a good word for it. Their peak hunting hours are the first 2 hours after sunrise and the few hours right before sunset. But honestly, they will hunt all day long.
So if I'm outside at noon,
Yeah, if you're sitting on your patio, having a coffee at 10 a.m., or hosting a barbecue at 4 p.m. in the blazing afternoon sun and you are getting aggressively swarmed, that is a massive red flag that you are dealing with a tiger mosquito.
and they have a very specific attack strategy too. The reports say they don't buzz around your head, right?
No, they fly incredibly low to the ground. They aim almost exclusively for ankles and legs, often hiding right under the patio table so you don't even see them coming.
That is so sneaky. But beyond the behavior, the physical description in the health department guides really caught my attention. They compare them to a 1-cent coin
Yeah, they are surprisingly small, which catches a lot of people off guard.
because the name tiger makes them sound huge.
Exactly. The name conjures up this image of a massive, intimidating insect, but they're only 4 to 10 millimeters long. A 1-cent coin is about 16 millimeters across, so the mosquito easily fits entirely inside that tiny copper circle.
And the tiger moniker actually comes from their coloring, right? Because they're pitch black with these stark white stripes.
Yes. The key diagnostic marks you really want to look for are a distinct, single, silvery white line running straight down the middle of its head and thorax.
Okay, a white line on the back.
Right. And then you look at its hind legs. They have 5 distinct white rings on their hind legs, and the very last segment of the leg, like the very tip, is completely white.
I always wonder about evolutionary traits like that.
Right.
Like why the striking black and white stripes. It seems like it would make them stand out so much.
It actually does the exact opposite in their native environment. Yeah. Remember, they evolved in dense tropical forests. So those stark white and black stripes provide incredibly effective camouflage in dappled light.
Oh, like sunlight through the leaves.
Exactly the way sunlight filters through leaves and branches, creating tiny, high-contrast spots of light and shadow on the forest floor. It breaks up their outline, making them nearly invisible to predators when they're resting on vegetation.
That is wild.
What's fascinating here is how this specific biological profile, being tiny, day-active, and camouflaged for dappled light, allows it to absolutely thrive in fragmented, shaded urban environments.
Like a leafy residential garden.
Exactly. A place where native mosquitoes might actually struggle.
So it's small, it's stealthy, and it's heavily fortified in German neighborhoods.
Yeah.
But if we're being realistic, a mosquito bite is usually just an itchy bump.
Sure.
You just slap some hydrocortisone cream on it and forget about it an hour later.
Right.
So why is this particular 4-millimeter bug sparking coordinated nationwide public health warnings?
Well, that brings us to the core of the issue, which is its capacity to transmit severe tropical diseases. The bite itself isn't inherently more toxic or venomous than a native mosquito bite.
Oh, wait.
The real danger lies in its role as a vector.
A vector. Right. Because the Robert Koch Institute sources list diseases we normally associate with tropical travel clinics. Dengue fever, chikungunya, Zika, and the West Nile virus.
Yeah, and these are not just minor fevers.
No. I mean, dengue is often called breakbone fever because it causes such severe joint and muscle pain that patients literally feel like their bones are physically breaking.
And chikungunya is similarly debilitating. The name itself comes from the Makonde language of East Africa and roughly translates to become contorted.
Oh.
Yeah, it describes the stooped posture of patients suffering from the intense, prolonged joint pain that the virus causes.
That's terrifying. And Zika, of course, gained global notoriety a few years back for its severe neurological complications.
Right, particularly causing microcephaly and birth defects when pregnant women are infected. These are serious pathogens with massive public health consequences.
Which makes it crucial, I think, to clarify a major misconception. The mosquito is not born carrying these viruses.
No, it's not. That is a fundamental point for understanding the actual risk level in Europe right now. The mosquito does not naturally harbor these pathogens in its DNA. It has to acquire them.
Okay, so think of the mosquito as a delivery system. It is essentially an empty delivery truck driving around your neighborhood.
That's a great way to put it.
It is completely harmless in terms of disease until it stops at a warehouse, picks up a very specific dangerous cargo of the virus, and then delivers that cargo to the next person it visits.
That analogy maps perfectly onto the transmission cycle. Let's trace exactly how a local outbreak happens in a place like Germany, based on the reports.
Walk me through it.
So, step one begins with human travel. A resident goes on holiday to a tropical or subtropical region where dengue or chikungunya is actively circulating. While on that holiday, they are bitten by an infected mosquito and contract the virus.
So they become the warehouse holding the cargo.
Exactly. They return to Germany. They might have a fever, or they might even be completely asymptomatic, but for a critical window of several days, that virus is replicating and circulating in high concentrations in their bloodstream.
Right?
So, step two, they're sitting out in their German garden, and a local, empty Asian tiger mosquito bites them.
The empty delivery truck pulls up and ingests the virus along with the blood. But wait, it can't just immediately fly to the neighbor's yard and infect them.
It cannot. There is a required waiting period called the extrinsic incubation period.
What happens during that period?
The virus has to survive digestion, multiply inside the mosquito's midgut, escape into the mosquito's body cavity, and eventually migrate to its salivary glands.
Oh, wow. It has to travel through the mosquito's whole body.
Exactly. Only when the virus reaches the saliva can the mosquito infect the next person it bites. And this is where temperature becomes the absolute limiting factor.
Because these are tropical viruses, so they require heat to replicate efficiently.
Right. For dengue and Zika viruses to successfully multiply inside the tiger mosquito and reach the salivary glands, you need sustained high ambient temperatures.
Like how high?
We are talking about average daily temperatures of 25 to 27 degrees Celsius over a period of 10 to 15 days.
Day and night.
Yes. And if the weather cools down, the viral replication slows to a crawl or stops entirely. In those cooler scenarios, the mosquito simply dies of old age before it ever becomes infectious.
Which explains why the authorities stress that the risk of a massive local dengue outbreak in Germany right now is still considered relatively low. Our summers are getting much hotter, sure, but maintaining a 27-degree average day and night for 2 straight weeks is still quite rare.
It is rare, but the window is widening every year. However, chikungunya is the more immediate concern here.
Why is that?
Because the chikungunya virus has adapted to replicate inside the tiger mosquito at much lower temperatures, around 20 degrees Celsius.
Oh, wow. And 20 degrees is easily reached and sustained during a typical German summer.
Easily.
And we're already seeing the consequences of that threshold being crossed just over the border, right?
Yes. The epidemiological reports highlight that in neighboring France, particularly in the Alsace region right near the German border, and in various parts of Italy, authorities have already documented multiple autochthonous cases of dengue and chikungunya.
Autochthonous meaning locally acquired.
Exactly. These are people who contracted these tropical diseases without ever leaving Europe.
That is wild.
The entire transmission chain, the infected traveler, the local tiger mosquito, and the secondary infection happened entirely within their local European neighborhood.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, because breaking this transmission chain requires a major shift in how we think about travel health.
It does.
The municipal guidelines from places like Stuttgart and Bavaria have this highly specific instruction for returning travelers. If you come back from a tropical region, you need to use strong mosquito repellent like DTT or Icaridin for 14 straight days after you get home.
And I know, it feels incredibly counterintuitive to unpack your bags, look out at your German backyard, and put on tropical bug spray.
Right.
But epidemiologically, it is the most effective intervention we have.
Because you aren't protecting yourself from getting sick. I mean, you already went on the trip.
Yeah.
You are wearing the repellent to protect the local tiger mosquitoes from biting you, picking up the virus you might be carrying, and delivering it to your neighbors.
Exactly. You are essentially throwing a padlock on the cargo loading dock.
That is such a smart way to think about it.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you see how intimately global mobility and local microclimates are intertwined.
Oh, absolutely.
A direct flight from Southeast Asia to Frankfurt takes 12 hours. A local German heat wave lasts 2 weeks. Those two completely separate events combine to create a brand new public health dynamic in a quiet suburban garden.
So we know the stakes are rising.
Mm.
And if the risk of these debilitating diseases is climbing, my immediate thought is, where are the trucks? Why aren't municipalities just fogging the neighborhoods and wiping these things out?
Right, that is the reflex for many people, but the reality of modern mosquito management is much more nuanced, and widespread chemical spraying is actually a dead end.
Yeah, the ecological reports are very firm on this. They say widespread spraying of adulticides, the chemicals designed to kill flying, adult mosquitoes is highly toxic to the broader environment
Extremely toxic.
because it kills indiscriminately, wiping out bees, butterflies, and all those other essential pollinators.
Exactly. The health authorities reserve chemical fogging strictly as an absolute last resort, only to be employed in a highly localized area if an active disease outbreak is confirmed.
So we can't just rely on the government to spray it away.
No, you cannot spray your way out of a permanently established tiger mosquito problem. The population will just bounce back in a matter of days.
Wow.
The only sustainable, effective strategy is habitat disruption. You have to target them before they can fly. You have to eliminate the breeding grounds.
So what does this all mean? Well, it shifts the responsibility entirely onto you, the listener. If you're looking at your own balcony or yard right now, you really have to stop seeing it as just a place to relax and start seeing it as a micro-ecosystem that you control.
Yes. And to disrupt their habitat, we have to understand what they are actually looking for. You kind of have to think like a tiger mosquito.
Okay, what do they want?
Well, in their native Asian forests, they are tree hole breeders. They seek out tiny, isolated, stagnant pools of water that gather in the crooks of tree branches or the hollow stumps of bamboo.
Right.
They aggressively avoid breeding in flowing rivers, and they completely avoid lively, established bodies of water like a garden pond.
See, that seems counterintuitive. I mean, a big garden pond seems like a mosquito paradise.
You'd think so, but a healthy pond is actually a death trap for mosquito larvae. It is full of predators.
Oh, right.
Frogs, dragonfly larvae, diving beetles, and fish. They will decimate mosquito larvae within hours.
So the tiger mosquito avoids them.
Exactly. The tiger mosquito has evolved to bypass those predators by seeking out temporary, tiny bodies of water where larger predators simply cannot survive. They only need about 5 millimeters of standing water to lay a successful clutch of eggs.
5 millimeters. I mean, that is barely a film of water. And in an urban environment, we are essentially providing them with millions of artificial tree holes.
Yes. Every flower pot saucer, every discarded plastic toy, every neglected bird bath, it's a predator-free nursery.
Which brings us to the practical defense. The guidelines are adamant about weekly habitat disruption. You need to check every single container in your yard and empty it completely at least once a week.
Frequency is key.
Because the mosquito life cycle from egg to flying adult takes about 7 to 10 days in the summer heat, so a weekly sweep physically breaks the reproduction cycle.
Exactly. And rain barrels are particularly problematic because they act as these massive dark incubators.
So what do you do with those?
You must cover them tightly with a solid lid or secure fine netting over the top so the females cannot access the water surface to lay eggs. Additionally, you want to store unused pots, buckets, and wheelbarrows upside down and clear out clogged rain gutters so water doesn't pool out of sight up there.
But just tipping the water out isn't always enough, right?
Yeah.
Especially as we move into autumn. We talked earlier about the eggs surviving the winter.
Yeah, the eggs are incredibly resilient. The female sticks them to the inner sides of containers just above the water line. They can survive being completely desiccated, dried out for months, just waiting for the water level to rise again.
That completely upends how I think about winter. We usually assume a hard frost sterilizes the yard, but these eggs are practically bulletproof.
They really are.
I mean, you could empty a plastic saucer in October, leave it bone dry in a freezing shed all winter, bring it out in May, and the moment it fills with spring rain, the eggs hatch.
Yep. Which is why the municipal guidelines explicitly mandate physical removal.
Like scrubbing.
Yes, you must scrub the inside of these containers with a stiff brush or wash them out with scalding hot water around 60 to 70 degrees Celsius before storing them for the winter. You have to mechanically destroy the eggs.
But there are always going to be places you can't empty your scrub. Think about, like, a street gully, a deep drainage ditch, or a heavy permanent rain catcher.
Right, and for those unavoidable permanent stagnant pools, authorities strongly recommend using Buddy.
Buddy, what is that?
It stands for Bacillus thuringiensis israelensis. It is readily available in tablet or liquid form for consumers.
Okay, I hear body tablets, and my mind immediately goes to toxic water treatments, which contradicts the no chemical rule we just talked about.
I get that, but it is not a chemical pesticide.
Right.
It is a highly elegant biological control.
How does it work?
Body is a specific protein crystal produced by a naturally occurring soil bacterium. When mosquito larvae filter feed in the water, they ingest this protein. Now, the protein is only activated in highly alkaline environments. And mosquito larvae happen to have highly alkaline guts.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, when the protein activates, it destroys their stomach lining, killing them rapidly.
And because other insects and animals have completely different digestive chemistry, it doesn't harm them.
Exactly. It is completely harmless to humans, pets, birds, bees, frogs, and even other aquatic insects whose guts are more acidic. It is a targeted smart bomb just for mosquito larvae.
That's amazing. So we can defend the yard with weekly sweeps and BD.
Hey.
But if they are day active, they're going to try to fly right through an open patio door while you're airing out the living room.
Oh, definitely. Physical barriers on your windows and doors are essential, but standard fly screens often fail against the tiger mosquito because of its size.
Right, because they're so tiny. The insect screen specialists in our sources, like Insectasun in Bavaria, they point out that standard hardware store screens often have mesh sizes that are just a little too wide.
Yeah, a determined 4mm tiger mosquito can just fold its wings and squeeze right through.
So they specifically highlight products like Pultex screens, which feature a microscopic mesh of 0.8 by 0.8 millimeters.
Right.
I mean, it was originally engineered to filter out pollen for severe allergy sufferers, but that incredibly tight reinforced weave is exactly the physical barrier required to block this specific insect.
This raises an important question, though, and it all circles back to the core realization here. The ecology of your neighborhood is fundamentally shaped by the choices you make on your own property.
Yeah. The Asian tiger mosquito is no longer just a tropical anomaly. It is a permanent resident in Europe. It brings the very real potential for the transmission of serious diseases like dengue and chikungunya.
Very real.
But by understanding its biology, its need for tiny predator-free pools of water, we can actually outsmart it. We break the transmission chain by using repellent after traveling, and we break the breeding cycle by ruthlessly eliminating standing water.
Knowledge and consistent localized action are absolutely our most effective repellents.
Exactly. And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder. As climate change continues to blur the traditional boundaries between tropical and temperate zones, managing our microenvironments, literally something as simple as the plastic saucer under a potted plant, might become our most crucial frontline defense against global disease.
It's a huge responsibility.
It really is. It makes you wonder, how will our very concept of urban gardening, landscape architecture, and city planning have to evolve to survive the bugs of the future? Do we need to design cities where standing water is mathematically impossible?
It's definitely something we'll have to consider.
Because the most significant ecological shifts aren't just happening on distant melting ice caps. They are happening right now in a 5mm puddle on your balcony, quietly waiting for the sun to rise.